Hello, my wonderful viewers. This is Desmond Gray of Gallant Integrated Media. How are you guys doing out there today? I'm sure you guys are doing wonderfully great, and I pray you continue to do great. The title of the episode today is Africa's Contemporary True Picture. Africa's Contemporary True Picture. That's the episode, the title of the episode of today. But before I proceed, please, I want to crave your indulgence to appeal to you guys to please help us subscribe to this channel. Activate the notification bell so whenever we're live on air or when we drop a picture, you will be alerted. Like what we do to enable YouTube to recommend it for other viewers, and drop your comments to aid us to propagate in what we do. Our resolve is to give you value for your time. So please do encourage us. Thank you so much. The title of the episode of today, Africa's Contemporary True Picture. We all understand what the word contemporary means. It's talking about the now and its urgency. My concern here is personal alignment with the growing cynicism for change in Africa. The cynicism is quite huge and growing. Let's look at it from this angle. We are all Africans. For those of us who are Africans, we are all Africans. To be an African, you are an African. And having all it takes to be an African. And you stand tall to claim your Africanism. You see, Africa today, from record, Africa today is said to be the continent with the largest mineral resources. The same Africa today is said to be the poorest continent in the world. Let's pause it a little bit as I go down to roll out extrapolations that will help us as we navigate through this episode. I will start with an extrapolation from an African, and I'm likely going to end the topic with an extrapolation from an African. Let me start, and I quote, "Our country, put it as continent here, produces enough to feed all of us. Alas, for lack of organization, we are forced to beg for food aids. Is this aid that instill in us or in our spirit the attitude of beggars?" End of quote. From Thomas Sankara. Secondly, and I quote, "In matters of style, swim with the current. In matters of principle, stand like a rock." End of quote. From Thomas Jefferson. Thirdly, and I quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, concerned citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." End of quote. From Margaret Mead. Fourthly, and I quote, "It is not the strongest of species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the most responsive to change." End of quote. From Charles Darwin. The last of this series, but not the least, and I quote, "A good objective of leadership is to help those who are doing poorly to do well, and to help those who are doing well to do even better." End of quote. From Jim Rohn. My wonderful viewers, these extrapolations as this topic blossoms, will help us understand what has already been existing and what is happening in Africa. A continent that has the largest number or the largest deposit of solid minerals and natural resources. That same country of Africa I know is not lacking human resources. So with the presence of natural resources and human resources, where do you think Africa should be? But today, Africa is said to be the poorest continent in the world. As a matter of fact, a school of thought described Africa as the poorest continent on earth. Trust me, this, to my own understanding, presuppose that if any other continent is to emerge from any part of the world today, there is the likelihood of that continent on emergence being richer than Africa. From this point of, from this angle of the describing Africa or description of Africa, how do you reconcile, how do you juxtapose the continent with the largest mineral resources, yet the poorest continent? How do you juxtapose the two? How do you reconcile someone saying to you that you have all it takes to be rich, but you are poor? That means something is wrong. If that is said to a person, that's something is wrong with that person. If it's said to an entity, something is wrong with that entity. That is what is said to Africa today. This is not because someone hates Africa. This is not because or out of wickedness or hatred or envy or like wickedness to Africa. This is real. This is out of factuality. That's the fact. Do you know that Africa has gold? Africa has silver. Africa has diamond, uranium, bauxite. Africa has zinc, columbite, chrome, cement, cocoa beans. Africa has zinc. Africa has every solid mineral you can think of, limestone, name it, chrome, coal, clay, name it, hydrocarbon, including titanium. Africa has all this. Just name any solid mineral you can think of. Not just having it, but having it in huge commercial quantity. The same Africa gallivants to Europe, to America, to Asia in search of economic aid. What do you say of such a continent? What do you say of such a people? If you understand or if you recall what Adam Smith in the 18th century defined capital to be, in fact, Adam Smith defined capital as that part of man's stock which he expects to give him revenue. That's what Adam Smith defined capital to be in the 18th century. This definition still stands the test of time, even today and tomorrow. Another school of thought defined capital as anything that confers benefit or value to its owner. Another school of thought defined capital as physical resources used to produce value in an economy. This is all the definition of capital. Then you now bring it to what we have in Africa and the result we are producing. It's a shame. You see, we have this, or let's say, we have politicians and leaders in Africa that are prototype of one another, no matter which part of Africa you're looking at it from. Be it East Africa, West, North, Central, or South. The leaders are prototype of one another. What this one is doing here is what the other one is doing there. What that one is doing there is what this one is doing here. That's what we see. These people sold this message of ethnicity and religion to the populace they consider to be gullible. Yet, their children intermarries. So you and I will be fighting each other in the name of tribe and religion. And they'll be laughing at us. If you look at what is happening in Africa today, you will agree with me that this generation and the generation to come, their future has already been ripped off by these wicked politicians. You will not want to align with the rising cynicism for change in Africa. You don't want to align. You feel less concerned because to you, it's okay, you're suffering, you're smiling, you think that is the way to go. The fact that you are suffering and smiling, or the fact that you smile after suffering, does not mean that you need to suffer first before you could smile. It's not a condition that for you to smile, you must suffer first. The fact that people in Africa can afford to eat only once in a day does not mean that it has no health consequence to their system. The fact that you are where you feel you have little change, so because of that, you are better off. You're not better off as far as you're an African, and this is the trajectory. With the going trajectory of Africa, no African is better off. Therefore, there is urgent need for every African to be concerned and show concern. Not just being concerned, but to show concern as well. You will not be concerned. You will not align with the cynicism, except if you have had any family member or a relation or a friend who got drowned at Mediterranean Sea in the course of migrating from Africa to Europe. You will not show concern and align with the cynicism, except if your parents back home in Africa, wherever you're watching me from, except if your people in Africa, or if people in Africa are sick and cannot find the medical attention to their sickness. That's when, and these people are related to you, that's when you will understand the cynicism. That's when you will be forced to align to the cynicism. You will not align with the cynicism, you will not understand the cynicism either, except if you are in diaspora and people back home depends on you for footing of their bills. Except when you pay the bills of people you have in Africa. A bill that's supposed to have paid by these people if things were to work in Africa, or if things are working in Africa. That's when you will understand and align with the cynicism. You will not align with the cynicism, except you recall that there are families in Africa that has held their country hostage for 54 years, sharing the seat of governance among themselves, impoverishing the people and subjecting the people to stagnation and abjectness. That's when you understand and align with the cynicism for change in Africa. You will not align with the cynicism, except if you have a family member who graduated from university over 5 to 6 years ago and still cannot find a job. And this person has to depend on you. That's when you understand and align with the cynicism. You will not align with the cynicism, except if you have concerns that you are doing well abroad but cannot go home because of the fear of insecurity. That's when you align with the cynicism. That's when you understand that your voice needs to be added to the existing voices of concern. The fact that you are in Europe, you think all is well, you will not understand and align with the cynicism, except you have been racially discriminated against. Yes. Except you have migrated from Africa to Europe, to America, to Asia, or to any part of the world in search of succor and spend years and still cannot find that succor. That's when you will understand and align with the growing cynicism for change in Africa. Voices need to be raised. You will not understand and align with the cynicism, except if you have stood on the sun for hours to cast vote, to vote and choose your leaders, only to, at the end of the day, discover that your vote did not count, yet a leader was imposed. That's when you understand and align with the cynicism. You will not align with the cynicism, except when you look back and see how our young ladies are being used as sex toys, as side chicks, because they can't give them job, but they can induce them with the peanut. That's when you will understand and align with the cynicism. You will not understand and align with the cynicism, except when you recall and understand that a professor in the university is paid a peanut when a councillor in the local government takes millions home. That's when you understand and align with the cynicism. You don't understand and align with the cynicism, except when you recall that education, which is said to have the capacity to bring the best in man, but this does not happen in Africa because we don't value our educations, as we don't engage those educated ones, but we engage certificate forgers as our leaders. That's when you understand and align with the cynicism. You can see the rising concerns over military coups in Africa Ask yourself, why? Because of despotism and despotic leaders in public space. But one thing is certain, at least there's a good takeaway there, that the people are happy with the change of government or the change and intervention of the military. Thank God for that. You don't understand, except when you recall how slave trade started in Africa, how people were being forcefully sold to Western slave merchants. That's when you understand that it took a William Wilberforce to stop slave trade. Today they come with another brand of trade, slavery, by frustrating Africans in their own land and leaving them with no choice than to migrate abroad in search of succor, a succor they struggle to find. That's when you understand and align with the cynicism. You will not understand, neither will you align with the cynicism, except when you begin to ask yourself, for those of us who consider themselves as doing well in overseas, why are you not going home? Are you not feeling home? Why are you worried about your people's security? Why? Is that not enough for you to align with the growing cynicism for change in Africa? You think your voice is small, that it cannot go anywhere. Add that your voice, that your small voice, to that voice is considered to be a big voice. It will produce a bigger sound. You think your voice is tiny. Add that your tiny voice to the voice you consider to be huge. It will produce a great sound. A sound of concern. That's what we all need to do. Africa belongs to all of us Africans. No one is meant to suffer when others are meant to enjoy the proceeds of Africa. It all belongs to all of us. But very few people has formed a kind of fraternity that makes them to be the only one enjoying and seeing the good in Africa, when the rest of us are not seeing it. Yet we're not showing concerns. Yes, we're not raising voices. Yet we're not making moves to see that we are ready to take back our continent. You think you must suffer before you smile? You think this is not a motivation for you to bear arms. It's a motivation for you to stand on your feet. It's a motivation for you to raise your voice. It's a motivation for you to realize that you are not meant to be going through what you are going through, if all things are meant to be well. If all things are well as they are meant to be. How could we be the continent with the largest deposit of solid minerals and natural resources, yet we're the poorest continent? How could one justify that? How? No one is talking, no one is seriously concerned. You think those few people that are raising their voices and concerned, you think they are stupid? You think they don't know what they're doing? You think because they are hungry? You think so? You just fold your arms and start laughing at people. What does this person think he's doing? Oh, because you've been able to migrate abroad, do menial jobs, work from 5 to 5, and you think you're doing well. You're not doing well, because if things are working the way they should work in Africa, you should have been better than your life should have been better than that. That is why there's urgent need for you to align yourself, your voice and your concern with the growing cynicism for change in Africa. And that's the only way to go. That's the only option we have. That's the only option we have. Look at people young people at their productive age doing nothing, and nobody shows concern about them. Instead, they are being used as thugs. They are being used as a weapon against their own society. They haven't got a choice because the situation cannot change. The situation is too beyond what they can understand. These people makes meal of our gullibility. These people takes us for a joke and they ride. I'm not coercing you to fight anyone, but I'm talking to you that you realize who you are as an African. We are meant to stand tall before the rest of the world, but that's not the case. Then we all have to raise our voices and our concerns. And if you permit me, this will be the point at which I will read out the last quote for the day. And I quote, "Throughout history, it has been the inaction of those who could have acted, the indifference of those who should have known better, The silence of the voice of justice when it mattered most that has made it possible for evil to triumph. End of quote. And this is coming from Haile Selassie. This will be the best place to leave it for today, my wonderful viewers. Please do drop your comment, share this video, like what we do, and subscribe to our channel. I will be glad if you do. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.